Leadership is hard. Titles change overnight, expectations pile up fast, and nobody hands you a survival map. That's why Leadership on the Rocks exists. Hi, I'm Bethany Reese, leadership coach, author, and speaker. And for 2 decades, I've been equipping leaders to navigate the wild, unpredictable terrain of leading people. Whether you're a new leader trying to find your footing or a seasoned leader trying to reclaim clarity, this podcast gives you the tools, truth, and encouragement you need to thrive in both your professional and personal lives. Each week, I sit down with leaders who have weathered storms, climbed mountains, and learned what it takes to lead without losing yourself in the process. If you're ready to build steady, grounded, life-giving leadership, this is your place. Let's climb together.
Well, and if you look at it from an individual perspective, finding joy and fulfillment in your life is going to come out of your purpose. When you look at it from an organizational or school standpoint, not defining the mission or the purpose means that everybody else is defining it. Then you have chaos. There's no unified team. Everybody does what they think is important, and very often it's what's urgent in that moment.
This is the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, where we equip and empower leaders like you to thrive in and create harmony between your professional and personal lives. I'm your host, Bethany Reese, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking with Michelle Sloan about leading with purpose, why purpose is the anchor every leader needs, what happens when we drift from it, and how reconnecting to purpose can bring clarity, confidence, and alignment back to our leadership and our lives. Michelle Sloan is an educational consultant and principal coach with over 25 years in education as an elementary educator and principal. As founder of Sloan Leadership Solutions, Michelle works with school leaders across public, private, and charter schools internationally. She provides coaching and mentorship to new principals, helping them succeed from day one. She also partners with existing schools to develop strategic plans, realign mission and vision, and get back on track towards excellence. Michelle delivers transformational professional development through collaborative cohorts. Her heart is helping leaders discover their God-given gifts and talents, then guiding them to make their dreams come alive. She believes everyone has a purpose, and when leaders live it out on purpose, they create a transformative impact on the world around them. Welcome to the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, Michelle. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks, Bethany. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, all right. So I've known you for about a year, and I'm such a huge fan of your coaching and your encouragement for purpose. I just feel like it's the foundation, the most essential rock, if you will, of everything that we do as leaders. But leadership can also feel heavy. There's a lot of pressure to perform. And also, I mean, even purpose is such a big word. It's almost like most of us, if we're at the eye doctor, we can't really see it very well. Like we don't see it enough to know what it is in our lives, and we're always seeking after it, but it's still always fuzzy. So add to a heavy feeling that we're always having, not really knowing what purpose is. Can we just start this conversation, which is so needed for me, and I'm sure everybody listening? What are some symptoms you're seeing from leaders that's creating this just feeling of, ugh? They may even be successful in producing in whatever industry they're in, but they still have this overall feeling of, I can't think of any way to say it, but just a sound. Ugh. What are some symptoms you see?
It's so true. Even Gallup put out a poll recently where engagement is at its lowest. I think 2/3 of employees are not feeling engaged and connected to the work that they do. There's a leadership crisis where leaders are feeling like they are disconnected from the true mission of the organization that they work for. And I think we need to know who we are and whose we are. We need to understand that we all have a gift. We all have talents that have been given to us. I think I have a friend that calls it an unfair advantage. It's something that is unique to you as an individual, that comes natural to you. It's easy, and everyone else, it's a little more challenging, a little more difficult. They have to work harder to do that very same thing. So that's why it's an unfair advantage. That's another word for purpose. There is, gifts, talents, purpose that you have been given. And so often we don't take the time to recognize what that is. I like to use the six types of working genius by Patrick Lencioni.
Yes.
I love to do that with
Hmm.
teams, and very often it's, you have a passion in an area and expertise that if you the majority of your work is done in that, then you have a sense of purpose, you have less burnout. If employees are
Hmm.
working from their genius, there's less turnover. But then there's also a level of frustration on the other end. And those are things that we have to do. We all
Hmm.
have to do them and from time to time, but you don't want the majority of your work to be
Hmm.
frustrating to you. And then there's an area in the middle that's kind of you can do it. It doesn't really frustrate you. You can do it. It's not really something you're passionate about. And, hopefully there's an even component to that and what your working genius is. But
Man.
with burnout being so high, I mean, we hear it everywhere. I think the majority of us are not working from our purpose and our
Hmm.
gifts. And I think that organizations and schools have lost their true mission and purpose as well.
Oh, I could not agree more. As we talk about purpose, I even started off with my fuzzy definition of it. And you immediately gave clarity of it's your own set of glasses, people. Stop stop looking to try to be like everybody else. God has made you very unique. I love the advantage aspect of that. Um, there's a certain way in which you operate, which the world needs, and other people, it's a little more difficult to operate that way. It's like your own set of glasses of each of us has a different purpose. Now we have to operate in operations, there's often the task that we hate to do. For example, I love cooking, love it. But I hate doing the dishes afterwards.
Right.
And so when I'm cooking, I'm in my element. When I'm doing the dishes afterwards, I'm miserable. And so I love that you're bringing that whole aspect to this conversation of if you're feeling the symptoms of, like you said, burnout, of just disengagement. I'm just not engaged. I'm just have that, ugh feeling. And then you need to tap in. Okay, well, where can I be operating in my strengths? And I love that you mentioned Lencioni. I'm such a huge fan of his. But just find out more about what you bring to the table and stop trying to be like everybody else. So thank you for starting us off with an excellent definition of just purpose. It's unique to us. So, why is purpose important? Now that we know that it's mine and then you have yours, so what?
Well, and if you look at it from an individual perspective, finding joy and fulfillment in your life is going to come out of your purpose. And it is so true when you talk about, we're competing with what other people say our purpose
Mhm.
is, or looking at what somebody else's purpose is, seeing them shine and be what we call successful and thinking, oh, I want to be like that. I want to do that. Instead of taking
Mhm.
a deeper dive into your own unique, what you were created to, your own unique purpose
Mhm.
and gifts. And so when you look at it from an organizational or school standpoint, not defining the mission or the purpose of that organization or school means that everybody else is defining it,
Ooh.
and then you have chaos. It really is
Mhm.
chaos. There's no unified team. Everybody does what they think is important, and very often it's what's urgent in that
Mhm.
moment, and not necessarily being intentional and purposeful about accomplishing your true mission. And so I
Mhm.
find that a lot, just working with schools primarily, but other leaders. It's like, what is the mission of your organization? And often what they say doesn't align with what's on their website or in their handbook, or written on
Or
a
what they
wall
do every
somewhere.
day.
Exactly. And it's a true problem. We really have to
Mhm.
connect those. And that drives every decision. It drives every meeting. It drives every conversation. We've all sat in meetings that seemed meaningless.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, why are we here? What is the purpose of this meeting?
Mhm.
Everybody's just kind of sharing what's on their plate at the moment. And if it's an informational meeting and that's the goal and the purpose is we're just here to sit and share what we're all working on, then that's, fine. But
Hmm.
I think we need to really start with what is the purpose here? What is the goal?
So let's dive into that a little bit more. I feel all of what you said of if it's not defined, then outside influences are going to come in and tell you, and you're going to feel the pressure, you're going to feel the urgency, you're going to feel people pleasing, you're going to feel the trends, the fads, the constant pulls of society. And that will absolutely drive you crazy because you're trying to meet everybody else's needs, purpose, whatever. So why is purpose a leader's foundation for their decision making?
I like to say it's the anchor that holds you when the storms, the challenges come. You're faced with a new employee saying, "Hey, this worked at my previous job. I think we need to try that here." Or another stakeholder comes in and says, "This is working down the street. We need to try this."
Hmm.
It drives your decision as a leader. You get to say, is this going to further our purpose? Because our purpose isn't the same as that organization or school down the street. Our demographic is different. Our clientele is different, and our purpose is this, not that. Otherwise, if everyone's gonna paint a beautiful picture about the latest, like you said, the newest shiny thing, the latest
Hmm.
platform, program, trend that is working at another organization down the street in another state, whatever's getting the most attention. And as a leader, we have a responsibility to not just keep hopping back and forth and trying new things. We have to stay steady. So it's the anchor that keeps us grounded on our truest purpose and mission. And if it doesn't align, it doesn't get us to that point, to that mission, to that goal, to our purpose, then we have to say no.
Yeah. Can I be honest? I mean, I try to always be honest. As you were explaining, if people that don't have an anchor, they're constantly going back and forth, they're trying the new latest fad or program or whatever it is. I was flooded with thoughts of remembering all the different people that I've worked for or organizations that I worked for and how I felt that tug of the pendulum swing, right? We're going here. No, wait, we're doing this. No, wait, we're doing this. And it's enough to make you seasick to go with your, analogy of not having the anchor. I feel like this is like the number one most violated thing by leaders is they are constantly seeking a magic pill, a quick way, a quick fix, a band-aid, or the pressure of outside people that don't understand the inner workings of the organization and the mission and the vision. And it is causing absolute chaos. And everybody listening, I mean, can you reflect for a minute? Have you ever felt that pull of, well, we were doing this, and then in another year, we're doing something else. And then another year, we're doing something else. I mean, I think we've all felt that. So, Michelle, your work and purpose is saying, stop the insanity, anchor yourselves, let's quit that. So, tell us what happens, because we've all felt it. What happens when leaders drift from their purpose? What are some downstreams effects of that?
Well, turnover, because
Mm,
and turnover is a problem right now. I mean, it's a disaster. Retention is a disaster. And so people get tired of it. Takes time to focus, learn, grow, and be successful in an area. And if you're not giving it time to put in to the growth, to learn, to be successful, then people are, like you said, they swing back to the other end of the
mhm,
pendulum. And so it's a constant shift. And when they drift away, I like to think of it, I like these ship analogies. So if you're on a cruise ship and you've painted this, this is our cruise, this is what we do on here, Carnival's the party ship, and
mhm,
Norwegian or Royal Caribbean are the higher end, maybe more adult focused. And so if people are getting into your organization thinking you're one thing, and then you're painting a picture of a destination of those blue, clear waters of where you're going, but you get off course. You decide, oh, well, Carnival Cruise is doing this. Let's have some fun and let's party. Then everybody on your ship is going to be like, wait,
mhm,
I thought our mission was this. And then you end up in Mexico when you thought you were going to the Dominican, and that's what happens. And people are like, oh, no, wait, it's going to be good here. It's going to be fun here. The leader's trying to paint another picture, but everybody's frustrated because they're not part of the organization they thought they were a part of. The values don't stand the same. The vision wasn't the same. Where you are headed and where you are going isn't where you were told that you were going. We
Mm,
all join an organization thinking it's one thing.
mm-hmm,
And very often you want the position, you applied, you want the position, or maybe you're already in the organization, but they see something in you. And so you are asked to become a leader and move up in the organization, but they don't truly prepare you for the different levels of leadership and how you have to make a shift from leading yourself to leading others.
mm-hmm,
And part of that as a leader is knowing who you are, who the organization is, and making that clear to everybody, and then sticking to the decisions so that
mm-hmm.
you don't drift.
I feel like you've given leaders the permission slip of half of purpose is once you understand the organization's mission and what you bring to the table, it's, so much of it is saying no to all of the
Yeah,
competing demands. And I feel
absolutely.
like you've just given us that permission slip to say, you're the leader. You need to recognize all of the competing demands because people want to come in and rob you of your time, attention, and talent, and get you off course, right? End up in Mexico when you're supposed to go to the Dominican Republic or wherever. And your job as the leader is to have that backbone to say, that's not where we're headed. We're going this way. And it's to say no. And I don't think we do that enough. We're such and this is not a political conversation, whatever, but a summary, if you will. If I had to put a big label on it to generalize it, like politically correct and nice, we are so nice that we don't tell people no. It's all about giving them what they want because we're afraid that they can blow up and have this big stink or now go on social media with all of these stories and things like that. Like I have lived that out, telling someone no, and now it's a social media thing
Hmm.
through the organization. It's so difficult, but you have to anchor yourself. I love it on who you are and whose you are to say no. So if we've seen a lot of leaders experienced it. I know I have at times given into the peer pressure. What happens when we drift and not only you said we lose people don't stay. We sold them one thing, we're now another. But doesn't it also affect like the culture, the communication, the confidence? Doesn't it create more conflict? Like what else happens whenever
Absolutely.
I want people to feel this when you don't say
Yeah.
no, what happens?
It's chaos. It really is chaos. And everybody starts leading from whatever is urgent and whatever
Mm,
they feel like matters most in their whatever their lane is, whatever their roles and responsibilities are. Those don't even come into play anymore because it's that their coworker feels like they need to do, what a peer feels like they need to do. We've lost true connection with people, and we're not short on information. I mean, we can ask Chat GPT, we can ask the Google. We are not short on information, but we're short on is transformation and being able to take what our roles and responsibilities are and driving that back to how does this matter to the organization. And I don't
mm,
think a lot of people realize how they play a part in the bigger picture of the organization. And so if everybody's doing what is urgent, what I say, the squeaky wheels, the one, I mean, it's the loudest voice gets the most
yeah.
attention. And it ends up being chaos where we're just running around putting out fires every day and we're not really accomplishing anything. There's no progress. It's just a constant pressure, and we can't sustain that in our life. People are wanting more. They want to know that they're making a difference, that they're contributing to a bigger picture, and that they matter. So they want to feel valued and heard, and they want to feel like they
Mhm,
matter. And that only truly happens when we're connected to a purpose and we're functioning out of our own purpose.
mhm. That's so good. I know I'm feeling everything you're saying. I know people listening are of whenever you don't have purpose, it's absolute chaos and you cannot continually sustain chaos. It's going to wear you down. It's going to make people leave. If you're enjoying the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode. And also, please rate the show. We hope to earn 5 stars in serving you in leadership, and through your ratings, it'll help us get the word out about what we do here at Leadership on the Rocks. Now, back to the show. So, Michelle, give us hope. How do we find purpose? I joke and say, is God going to give me the burning bush? And then I think, no, he only did that once in history. Like how? How do we find our purpose? Help us.
Well, I think if you go back to the very beginning of what made you want to take this job, what helped you make that decision, um, think about what you went to college for, what your first job you were. We all had these hopes and dreams and aspirations. But over time, over the years, things have shifted and changed. So we lose that. So go back to the very beginning and find what gave you joy, what made you want to pursue this. And it doesn't mean that you have to stay in that, but there's something in there in the very beginning that originated with you that you enjoyed, that made you want to do that. And it doesn't have to be like careers change and come and go, your calling can change and come and go, but there those unique gifts, talents, the unfair advantage, that purpose can remain the same. For an organization, I think they have to go back to why they started and who they work with, what their goals are can shift
Mm-hmm.
and change, but they have to go back to why they started. Simon Sinek's always saying, go back to the why. We have to
Yeah.
start with our why. And sometimes that is so cliche and we've all, done that. But it truly is what we have to do. We can't be everything to everybody. You
Mm-hmm.
can't please everyone, and you will drive yourself crazy and the people that you lead crazy if you try to do that. And knowing who you are and why you exist is what's going to sustain and keep your people happy. So I think how it is possible, it is achievable, and it is going back to why you exist, what sets you apart from every other organization or school down the street, and
Mm-hmm.
clearly define that. I think we started embracing rewriting mission statements and embracing these big categories so that we could be, open to everyone and everything. We don't want to isolate anybody. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We want to be open to everybody so we can have this broader,
Mm-hmm.
ability to meet a lot of people's needs. But when you are so broad, then nobody knows who you are and what you
Mm-hmm.
stand for, what sets you apart. So one of the things that I do with the leaders that I work with is who are you? Why do you exist? And what sets you apart from every other school, every other organization, every other
Mm-hmm.
church down the street, so that people don't walk in and say, oh, I don't like that you're not doing this. The school down the street's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't like that you have this policy. Where I came from before, we were allowed to blank. Or
Mm-hmm.
this, for a church, I don't like that you do this type of music. The church down the street did it this way. And so we really have to clearly define who we are. And when you do that, it gives
Mm-hmm.
you freedom. It gives you the freedom to say no, and it gives your people the freedom to say no. They're clear on where you're going and where you're headed, and that brings clarity, and clarity is kindness. So I think it sounds so simple, and honestly it is, but there's an accountability point that we all have to hold each other accountable to,
Mm-hmm.
whether having our meetings, our conversations, your events, everything that you do is okay. Is this going to drive us closer
Yes.
to our mission? And if it's not, then yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun and it sounds like a great thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really going to benefit our mission and who we
Yeah.
are.
Absolutely. It reminds me of Craig Groeschel, who's also a leadership in the leadership space and also a pastor, but he says, who before do? You
Mm,
have to know who you are. And I love it. I feel like not only is it a foundation, but it's like that sifter that everything goes through. If it is not a part of who we are and what we do, then the answer is no. And it really helps you sift the good from the best. of,
Mm.
your time and what you're working towards. And I just think it's such an important thing. And I love that you are bringing that level of work to leaders because we can stay so execution focused. Give me the plan, give me the 10-step program, give me the technology, give me the tool. But if we don't internally understand, why that tool is needed and how to use it, then the tool is ineffective and it always will be. So you're doing that deep level work of everything that's in the head of how we show up and how we define who we are and how we work. And without that, I mean, everything else, nothing's going to work. You are going to drift. Going back to your ship analogy, if you don't have that anchor, you're going to drift. So thank you for doing that work. Are people receptive to it? Are organizations receptive, or do they see it as fluffy stuff? Even though you and I, and probably most people listening, because they're here listening, know that if you don't have that, you're going to get off course bad. But are people receptive to this?
They are, and usually they come and ask, "Can you help me do this one thing? Can you help me raise reading scores? Can you help me establish a strong culture? Can you help me with team building? Can you help me?" There's usually one area that they want help with, and I will tell
Mhm.
them this is going to be, I will help you with that, and I can, and we can map that out and focus over the next 12 sessions and virtual sessions, come onto your campus and map out a plan. That's a band-aid
Yeah.
for what the true issue is and what the bigger picture is. So we can do that as long as we're also going to take a deeper dive into why this happened and how can we put steps and processes and systems in place so that it's repeatable and it doesn't keep happening again and again.
Oh, you made such a good point. Most leaders will say they know what they need to do. I included, right? Let's have a team building event and then check the box. Then we go back doing the same darn thing that we've always done after that, thinking that one event, like throwing, it's almost like a marriage. Like if I just, get the other person flowers or take them to have a steak, then it's going to fix all the problems, like that one time event. And that's just not the way it goes. So you bring up an excellent point of, sure, you can start there to start the conversation, but the conversation has to keep going. The work has to
Mhm.
be done. The systems, the processes, the day-to-day interactions is what builds all of this.
Yeah.
And I love that people like you come alongside organizations. Specifically, you work with schools of all kinds and leaders, but that you're walking them along this of this is how we truly restore and have the corrective surgery that we need to get go forth. So, in taking all of this concept of purpose, can you give us a practical anchor? Like, what's a first step? You talked about thinking about our talents. So, maybe it's a second step. Think about why you got into this, your talents. How do we how do we turn our ship around if we've been going the wrong way?
You got to rally the troops. It's not going to take one person to do this. It's going to take a team. And so I think you rally your team together and you just be open and honest and vulnerable about the work that needs to be done. And it doesn't necessarily mean everybody in the organization or everybody in the school is going to be the people that are rallying and turning the ship around, but I think you identify key leaders, knowing their personalities and knowing their gifts, their talents, their abilities, and bringing up a diverse team that can. Some are going to be motivators, some are going to be detailing and mapping out the strategies. Some are going to be following through and holding people accountable. Some are going to be casting the long term vision. Other people are going to map out the steps. And so it's really about having a hard stop the ship, and let's talk about where we need to go, what we need to do, and bring in the right people on the team to map it out and get there.
Man, I hope you all heard all of those nuggets of wisdom that Michelle just laid out for you. Number one, name the elephant in the room. Everybody feels it, everybody thinks it, and everybody's talking about it at happy hour. Name it. Guys, are y'all feeling overwhelmed and stressed? Do you feel like we're going the wrong way? Me too. Let's stop that. We so bad want to, I mean, typically we want to hide things under the rug. We don't want to admit defeat or failure or whatever, but that authentic moment of naming the elephant is huge. And second, you said have a diverse team. You started this whole conversation, said every single person is unique. They bring something unique to the table, to the team. a God-given talent of motivation, of mapping out, of long-term vision, of getting buy-in. Like you sit here and named like so many different individual gifts and talents. And then you said, oh, yeah, bring him on the team. That is such wisdom. We don't have to do it all. If I am the leader of the organization, I can't play all those roles. I'm not designed that way. I am a brainstormer. Ideation is mine. Like I love coming up with ideas, but man, execution, no, I gotta bring somebody else alongside me to help with that. So the wisdom you just shared in that 30 seconds was just amazing. Everybody go back and listen to that segment. So, Michelle, out of all the things we've talked about with purpose and the anchor and the foundation for decision making, helping us say no, what would you say are the key takeaways that a leader can apply when it comes to purpose?
That everybody has one and it's unique to you, and helping, first of all, discovering it for yourself, taking the time to reflect and dig deep and ask some hard questions for yourself, knowing that you do have one and so does everybody else, and then helping them discover theirs. And so I think that when we hire somebody on and we think, oh, here's your job, here are your roles and responsibilities, we quickly
Mhm.
find that that may not be their natural gift, their natural talent. And so we have a decision to make. And I think no matter what we end up deciding as a leader for that person, helping them discover their unique gifts, talents, or unfair advantage. Because I biggest takeaway is you have one. If I could say something to the leaders, is you have one and so does everybody else. The
Mhm.
best thing you can do for your family, for yourself, and for your future is to discover what that is, and then go and use it to the best of your ability and make a difference. And the second thing is to go and help other people discover theirs.
Oh, so good. Know yours, go help people discover theirs. So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, but then I'll give you a little time to think by
Okay.
sharing mine. You've talked about go find your purpose and then help people find theirs. So I want to know what your purpose is. If you kind of have that hashed out, and it has taken me years to understand what my purpose is. Now, I'm a faith based person. Y'all listening to this podcast know that. I feel like overall, as a believer in Christ, my big purpose is to love God, love people. That's what I'm called to do no matter what. But then, as for my unique talent and calling, I think no matter the situation, what God has gifted me is the gift of encouragement. Whenever things seem bleak, I feel like I'm a great encourager, almost like cheerleader for other people. But then also that, the brainstorming and then the coaching of how can we get out of this? Let's brainstorm some ideas and then we can do this and this and this. And that's what I tend to bring to the team or any role that I've had, whether I'm serving at church or serving in the community or leading. Like that's kind of my calling, if you will. My purpose is that encouragement and that ideation, brainstorming, and coaching kind of all clumped in together. My husband is a connector. He's like,
Mm,
well, I don't know how to do it, but so and so and so and so, if we get
yeah.
those two together and have a right conversation, like he always sees the bigger picture for connection. It's amazing. So, Michelle, what do you feel like yours is?
Well, I'm like you, I'm a person of faith. And so love God, love others, serve God, serve others. And so those are,
Mhm.
loving and serving are the two things that the foundation. But as far as the unfair advantage and unique, it's taking me years to figure
Mhm.
out what that is. And I'm an organizer. I love systems. I love processes, and I love rallying people together and motivating them to get there. Like I love having fun. I love speaking words of encouragement. And so I need help along the way to say, let's what am I forgetting? What are the details that I'm forgetting
Mhm.
here? And how is that going to impact this team? And how is it going to impact that team? Because I can get so focused on rallying everybody together to get to this big, beautiful destination that I forget how that shift may impact others. And so, yeah, that's probably they call it the galvanizing, and then the tenacity is the other one. So I can ride through the storm, and stick it out, but I'm going to need a lot of help to get there.
We all need help, right? We all have those constraints in our leadership. And the goal that you're talking about is you can't be all things to all people. I heard you say that, and it makes me take a breath like, that's right.
Yeah.
I can only be who God made me to be. So such good work. And so now we've talked about the ways that we can find our purpose. We've revealed where God has us with our purpose and calling. So let's go the opposite. What is one poor decision leaders should not do? Like, leaders, don't do this one thing. Come on, you're better than that. What is one thing we should not do?
Listen to what everybody else is telling you is urgent and important.
Oh, please say that again. We need to hear that again.
Listen to what everybody else is telling you is urgent and important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to fall into that pressure. So, nope, not today. I love it. So good. So, Michelle, where can our listeners go to learn more about you and your work and grab a copy of your book, The Purpose Driven Principle?
The Purpose Driven Principle is a book that just released in November. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Goodreads, I think. You can find it there. A lot of golden nuggets in that for any leader, really. As a principal, I wanted to write my first book from what my first passion was out of teaching. But Sloan Leadership Solutions is the organization that I work with, that I am CEO of, and that's what I use to go in and help with people. So you can find me on social media, LinkedIn, and Sloan Leadership Solutions website.
Awesome. And I'll have links to all of those in the show notes. Michelle, thank you so much for being here and just helping us anchor away from all the crazy chaos that we are living in every day and giving us that permission slip to say, what has God called you to? Do that and say no to everything else. So thank you for that permission slip and thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Guys, until next time, continue putting in the work of building your life and leadership on the rocks, the essential rocks. God bless. Remember, the most essential rock you can build your life and leadership on is the rock of Jesus Christ. Today's Bible verse comes from Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope.